Why does Black-owned media matters? Because we have been covering the story of Jackson, Mississippi all week. We live streamed the mayor's news conference on yesterday. We reran that whole news conference during yesterday's show. We are not going to operate like mainstream media. Give it about 30 seconds or 1 minute. That's why we're staying focused on it. Jackson, Mississippi is a majority Black city, 80+%. The mayor is Chokwe Lumumba. He joins us right now. He has been on the forefront, keeping his residents abreast of what's happening there. Mayor, always good to see you. Glad to have you here. You had to correct the governor with your news conference on yesterday. He pretty much threw you and the city under the bus, but you had to make it clear what the actual facts are regarding the water condition there in Jackson.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, it's always good to speak with you, my brother, and thank you for lifting up the issues that our people have been suffering under. We've been lifting this up for more than 2 years. It has been a part of every legislative agenda that my administration has had. And I've been in office, I'm in my 6th year now. And so, we've been met with that resistance and we've continued to sound the alarm, letting it be known that it's not a matter of if these systems will fail, but when these systems will fail. And we have the receipts for that. Now, I have been unapologetic. I have been I have not been bashful in sharing why those reasons are. And at this moment, when the state came into my office on Monday and shared that they were going to bring some resources, I told them, well, we open our arms to that. And so we need far more. We have to make certain that when the cameras go away, that is not where the effort ends. And we have to make certain that it's not just about stabilizing the system in this moment, but building a sustainable, a dependable, and an equitable system. And I say equity because not only do we have a system that fails on many occasions, we have a system that has a disproportionate effect on the blackest and brownest parts of our city. In South Jackson, the areas that are the furthest away from the water treatment facility and at the highest elevation, people have recognized that inequity. And the reality is that we don't have a lever that distributes water from North Jackson to South Jackson. But what we do know is that when values are established on properties, those things are considered. And so we have to better understand things like city and urban regional planning and how it affects our communities and the disproportionate effect that it provides on our families and the exploitation of Black bodies and Black families.
So this is quite interesting. As you are talking, conservative Eric Erickson has hosted a radio show out of Georgia. And he literally sent this tweet 3 minutes ago. He said, and I'm reading this a quote. He was responding to a Washington Post story about what's happening in Jackson. He says, quote, "This is getting really fucking ridiculous. The Jackson water problem is not a climate change issue. It is a government failing to collect payments, losing money, and failing to maintain and upgrade infrastructure problem. The climate stuff is cult-like."
Well, first and foremost, in terms of the history of this problem, to be very clear, my family moved to Jackson in 1988. In '89, as a little boy, I remember the crash of our system, the inability to use water for prolonged periods of time. And it's happened so many times in the course of my life. It is very difficult to reflect on exactly how frequent it has been. I've listened to package after package of residents in Jackson that say that it's just a part of our lives. And so let's be clear on that. And so that was before some challenges that the city did have. I am an introspective person. I think we have to be an introspective city. And one of the things my administration has attempted to correct is the exploitation of a international corporation that came into Jackson before I took office and installed meters that didn't work and stranded bills and further crippled the financial conditions. And so it's just not, this picture of incompetence that is attempted to be displayed. It is the exploitation of Black communities time and time again, which is part and parcel of what we're talking about. When we talk about, what has had and what has led to this system, there certainly is a role for climate change to play, has played a significant role in this. We're experiencing hotter summers, colder winters, and more annual precipitation. What that has led to is, issues of a flood that is bringing in water of a different chemistry that complicates the treatment process of our water treatment facility, such as what has happened today. It has led in the summer when we're dealing with Mississippi heat, clumping in the soda ash that we must distribute into our system and it unevenly falling into the system, and a need to weatherize it. 2 Februaries ago, when it made international news that Jackson was in this situation at that time, when we suffered a winter storm that debilitated our system. It froze raw water screens. We had an inability to get water in the plant. Therefore, we had an inability to get treated water out of the plant. These are things that we have the receipts on. These are the things that I've been screaming for years. I said that Jackson is actually the poster child for the infrastructure needs of our country, and it's far past time that we invest in it.
Questions from our panel. I'll start with you, Reese, for the mayor.
Hi, Mayor. Thank you so much for being with us. You know, I've been hearing some rumblings about part of the reason that funding is kind of being withheld or kind of held in limbo from the state is because of trying to get leverage for taking control over the airport in Jackson. Do you believe that that has any kind of bearing on the lack of funding that has gone your way from the infrastructure package? Or do you think, what do you think should be done in terms of those negotiations?
Yeah. So I will say that there has been an ongoing fight for us to maintain control of our airport, an airport that our city invested in, an airport that largely our decision of where it was located at the time it was built has worked to the benefit of surrounding communities. In fact, we housed our airport in an area right outside of Jackson called Rankin County, whereas conventional wisdom at that time would have said that we should have put it between Jackson and Vicksburg because those were the more densely populated areas. And so as the surrounding communities have grown, they now look in a vile way towards Jackson and talk about how they want to build around it. The effort to take over the airport has nothing to do with the facility or how it runs. In fact, Jackson is enjoying record service at our airport. We are one of the only cities that are offering more flights or more carriers since the pandemic than prior to the pandemic. And it's largely led by a nearly all Black commission that is doing an amazing job that took the airport out of the red and brought it into the Black. These are the narratives that aren't being told. And so there has been an effort to take over the airport, not only for the contracts and things that we certainly know that an airport can provide, but because the purchase of land that the Jackson Airport sits on is pristine land that can be developed, some of which is incorporated as a city of Jackson, and we can benefit from tax revenue, some of which is either unincorporated or incorporated in surrounding cities, but are certainly areas where we can have long-term leases that work towards the benefit of our airport. We certainly know the story of the Atlanta airport and how Black wealth was built upon that airport. Yep. We want to take advantage of that too. And so, yes, this has been a fight that we've been a part of. Yes, I have had struggles with certain state leadership that have offered to buy our airport for $40 million. And my recommendation or my statement to that was, if I were to do that, I must be dumb and cheap. And so I'm neither. And so we're going to protect our institutional assets. But at the same time, my primary focus over the last couple of days has been centered around how we restore water. And I have been working in a coalition because the time demands that coalition. But there are longer standing questions about how we maintain control of our water system and all of the resources. I'll say this last. Is that the principle by which I guide my life and the principle by which I govern is one of self-determination. And so we want to make certain that we control our resources for ourselves and for the benefit of our communities.
Can I just say the reason I asked that too is because I just want to be clear, and I'm glad you clarified it, that this is not a matter of trading one for the other, because I don't want anybody to blame you or the leadership in Jackson for what's happening with the water treatment plant because of, whatever kind of shady business is going on. So thank you for clarifying that.
No, thank you. Thank you for asking the question.
Let's go to next, Greg Carr.
Thank you, Roland. And hey, Brother Mayor, it's always good to see you, brother. Love and strength to you and the family and everyone there in Jackson. And of course, looking forward to this being remedied. Although one thing I can't say though is wishing Jackson State good luck in some September the 10th when we meet y'all in Memphis from Tennessee State, brother. We can't. We got to get that Southern Heritage Classic. But brother, one of the things that came up, there was a New York Times article today that talked about the $50 billion in the Biden administration has set aside for climate work, and I know that you've talked to the president. And one of the things I want to ask you based on that article was this. They're saying that applying for some of this money might require a special staff person coming out of the city of Jackson to apply. And there were a couple of federal programs that the Times notes. It isn't clear whether or not the city of Jackson applied. So the question I have is this. Are you being blocked by this governor, this legislature, when it comes to applying? The Mississippi Emergency Management Agency, the same people that are claiming they're trying to give you help now, have they been helpful in the city of Jackson trying to apply for some of the money that is available, even in the infrastructure legislation that passed? And again, brother, best of luck, and we're all supporting you in anything we can do. It's always good to know that you're on the case.
Well, I appreciate it, brother, and the feeling is mutual. It's always good to see you and talk to you. Well, first and foremost, there are many layers to that question, and the answer is in like response. So first and foremost, in terms of the federal dollars that have come through the state, we have not received any of that money. The portal in order to apply for ARPA funding that was sent to the state literally just opened today. And so we've been pushing back on narrative saying that, well, Jackson hasn't applied. Well, our legislative requests have always been consistent that we're asking for that federal money. Federal money, that I might add that when I'm talking to Administrator Regan of the EPA, even when I talk to former Mayor Mitch Landrieu, the czar of the infrastructure bill, or even, as many times as I've heard the president mention Jackson, they have all indicated to me that the money that was sent to Jackson, the money that was sent to the state of Mississippi, they had Jackson in mind. In fact, I remember or recall a phone call that I was on with the president where he talked about exactly what the allocation was to Mississippi and that he hoped to see Jackson get that money, get its equitable share. But what we have is not a firm commitment to any dollar, that cities have to apply. All cities have to apply through MDEQ. That's the the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality, and put our projects forward. And then after you apply through MDEQ, Jackson and Jackson alone has a duplicitous process where we then have to submit an application to DFA, the Department of Finance and Administration. And certainly that concerns me. There is no justification for Jackson to have that duplicitous process. It's another hurdle for us to climb, and it's another delay for people who are in need of relief now. Now, we are going after competitive federal funds. We are working and talking with the EPA. We are working and talking with, agencies that are helping us, map out a very precise and accurate request for our money, such as the U.S. Water Alliance through the support of the Kellogg Foundation. And so we have the expertise in the House. We're looking at BRIC funding, which is a federal grant that can provide large, competitive, but large sums of money to help repair infrastructure and help in resiliency. We are looking at water funds. We're looking under every pot. And of course, we're looking at the Justice 40 initiative of the EPA, a piece of legislation that was authored that was tailor-made for Jackson. As you read that and read, the qualifications, the prerequisites for a city to apply, it speaks to a city like Jackson like no other legislation does.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Erica.
Hi, Mayor. I'm so glad that you can be with us today, and I echo sentiments of my colleagues around thinking about Jackson, Mississippi, and really praying for quick remedies. My question is around we've read and seen, and you shared with us that Jackson, Mississippi is 80%, about 80% Black. And this month, September, is Suicide Awareness Month. And just thinking about the brain being 80% water, our bodies being about 60 to 75% water. Water is an essential element within us and around us. So with this environmental racism, I would say that you and your constituents are facing, do you have the necessary support in place? And has your law enforcement, your teams, have they been briefed that, if they see some activity around people who may be suffering with mental illnesses, to not be so quick to use force because of what you all are experiencing right now, which is a water crisis?
Well, the simple answer is no. We do not have all of the resources to contend with the challenges that our families and communities are dealing with. These are cycles of humiliation that cities like Jackson find themselves in. Yes, our police department does receive training in terms of how to deal and de-escalate mental health issues. Is it sufficient? No, absolutely not. We're talking about an occupational culture that's a difficult thing to break. And the reality is that our response to these challenges should not merely just be a punitive response, should not be exclusively a policing response. What we are attempting to create in our city is under the mayor, the office of the mayor, is an office of violence prevention and trauma recovery. In that office, not only are we looking to coordinate with violence interrupters and incredible messengers and the like, but also we want to see a one-to-one. For every new officer we bring in, we want to bring in social workers. We want to bring in mental health professionals. When we talk about the sharpest increase in our violence in our city, in Jackson, that picture looks among our youngest demographics. We believe that as we have had to make the choice between a bad decision and a worse decision in the midst of a pandemic, we have often taken young people out of the institutions in which they thrive. And that has resulted in some negative consequences and negative relationships and young people taking permanent solutions to temporary problems. Instead of just making that a police response and substituting policing for parenting, what we're trying to do is also lift up curfew centers, centers where, when we see a young person that is out past a time that is a threat to them or a threat to community in some other way, instead of arresting them when often criminal activity has not ensued, let's take them to a place where we can remediate what is the actual root cause that has them wandering on the street in the first place. Those are the type of holistic responses that I think that we have to incorporate in our communities. And that's what we're trying to do in Jackson.
And I thank you for sharing that, Mayor, because I just wanted to tie the current crisis in with also mental health as well. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Mayor, we certainly appreciate it. I am here in Houston. Your fellow mayor, my alpha brother, Sylvester Turner, they're having a water drive tomorrow for the folks in Jackson. It's taking place from 7 to 12. And I'm sure there are other mayors across the country who are doing their part to help you and the folks in Jackson, Mississippi.
Well, I appreciate it, brother. I like how you slipped in that alpha brother thing. I'd like to say shout out to the Kappas as well. That's one. I didn't miss that earlier comment about Jackson State. So we're no longer even going by Jackson State. You can just call us Jackson. Y'all know who we are when we're coming, right?
Just keep in mind, Mayor, you talking to an alpha there as well. So as always, Kappa.
Good seeing you, my brother. Good seeing you. Love you all.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Can you believe the nerve of these Republicans? They only want to block progress for our community. They talk about cutting Medicare and Social Security. They played politics with veterans' health care. They voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and funding for our HBCUs, and against lowering prescription drug costs for our seniors. These Republicans keep trying hard to stand in the way, but President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Democrats won't let them. They are delivering for us. The Democratic National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.